Hey everybody, this is Eric Worre and welcome to Network Marketing Pro. This is another of our $1 Million interview series. I'm here with Jeremy Stansfield. Jeremy?
Yeah.
How are you?
So good.
It's good to see you. And I got a chance to learn a little bit of your story, but I'm excited to be able to have this conversation, talk with everybody. And here's what I know, the highlights.
Okay.
You've been involved in the profession full-time for about
19 years.
19 years. Yeah. And last 6 years straight, you're earning more than $1 million a year?
Yes.
For the last 6 years straight? So part of that elite group in network marketing, right? So talk about how you got introduced to this network marketing profession. What did you do prior to it, and what brought you here?
Okay. Well, I ended up being involved in a commercial carpet installation business with my father at a young age. So he's got contracts in the state of Utah and worked really hard doing that, and ended up being a real serious workaholic at a really young age. So it was something that I love my dad for that, because he taught me a great work ethic, and didn't do too bad financially actually through high school years. And over time, I was ready to get on my own, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to work 70 and 80 hours a week for the rest of my life, even though I had crews working for me. I was in electronics repair. I actually had a management job as well, and so I had several streams coming in, and eventually I kind of crashed. And this is, I think I heard that you got in the industry about age 23. That's exactly when this all happened to me.
Wow.
So I had ended up kind of hitting a wall and realizing if I didn't make a change, no one else was going to make a change for me. And I was searching and I was looking, and I started to let some of those projects go. And eventually I was introduced to a company in the industry to begin with that wasn't the right fit, ended up having some challenges, and I ended up getting to a different one. And
the first company you were with went out of business, yeah?
It did.
After a couple months being involved?
Yeah.
And which left probably a bad
which
taste
is
in
kind
your
of
mouth.
the kind of companies that leave our industry a bad name. So,
yeah, well, I mean, people try.
And I guess it was a blessing in disguise. So, if that wouldn't have happened, then potentially I wouldn't have got more serious about learning about our entire industry. And as a matter of fact, I will have to say kudos to the individual that brought me or taught me about the company that I'm with now, because at that time, he was actually teaching me about the credibility of the entire industry rather than just trying to promote his company. So I kind of went through a crash course education about our industry in a couple of months, and because I was in the looking zone and I was serious about finding something for my future, I really dug into it, studied it, and my belief level I found grew the more that I was looking and being introduced to people and trying to analyze different companies and listening to lots of audio cassettes and trying to understand the industry.
Remember audio cassettes?
Yeah, actually.
I miss
audio cassettes, VHS tapes.
Yeah, man.
It's going to date us. Oh,
DVDs and CDs, they're just not the same. Just not the same. I miss having my big, huge audio album in the car and pulling out the audio cassette. Anyway. Yeah. Old people talking. Anyway, so here's my big question for you. I mean, you had some success with that. You got involved in network marketing. You've had this tremendous success. My big question for you is, what makes you different? What makes you special? What puts you in the top 1% of 1% of 1%? This incredible group of people that are earning 7 figures a year. What makes you different from the average person that might really want this? I don't know if you've differentiated and tried to see what makes you different, because there's some things, the common themes that I see, but I'm interested in that.
You know what's interesting is that I kind of go back, because it seems like I had a little bit different upbringing than a lot of other people that I know. And for whatever reason, I started getting into visualization at a young age and started to, plaster posters around my room. In fact, I still have pictures in my middle school years and high school years of not being able to see the walls in my rooms because they were covered with, a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, or it was a beautiful home, or it was a travel destination, or it was healthy-looking people. And for whatever reason, I at a young age started to really dream build a lot, and even though no one told me to do that, and nobody around me in my life really did that, but I caught a bug at a really young age, and so I kind of was always entrepreneurial minded, but I was never really around somebody that could help me get there. And so at the times that I did find business projects to focus on, I worked them very aggressively. Probably worked a lot harder than anyone I knew, but I figured that eventually that wasn't going to take me to get these cool things that I thought that time was like the thing of life. If you got those, like your ship had come in, Yeah. And so I think that at the time that I was introduced to the industry, the first company didn't work out, but I didn't give up eventually. I wanted to learn about this potential, not only the income potential, but the residual income potential, potentially coasting and slowing down and still being able to be rewarded for your efforts. And that really lit my fire. And I thought, here's all these other people out there that have been able to do this. Now, I've got good work ethic. I've never been in sales, never been good at probably building a lot of relationships in my life. I've been more behind the scenes and just a real hard worker. But I thought, if there's all these other people doing it, why can't I do it? And it might take me longer. And that's okay. But I've got good work ethic, and eventually I'll get better and better at it, I think. So it was really a leap of faith in the beginning. But right out of the starting gate, I didn't need to build my belief level because I'd already been doing that, researching the industry. So the day that I pulled the trigger, I actually started full time. And I cut all my other things behind me.
Isn't that weird?
And I had payments and house payments and debt, and I had credit card debt that had racked up, and I had this injury in my shoulder at the time, and so I kind of got to that point where I was like, you burn all bridges, and I don't encourage my team and other people in the industry to do that. If you have a good income coming in, wait, because it puts a lot of pressure on you.
Yeah, I'm a little bit torn. I'm a little bit torn, to be honest, because I went full time.
Yeah.
A lot of the successful people I know went full time, and I know, you can go part time and you can ease your way in, but it's painful.
Yeah.
While you're doing it, so it's I don't know. It's a debate.
Yeah.
To be had, because take the other top earners.
Yeah.
In your company.
Yeah.
Did they ease their way in?
A few of them, and a lot of other ones didn't. Yeah. So
what percentage do you think eased their way in? What percentage just went for it?
It'd be hard for me. I'd have to probably look at the reports to kind of visualize and think about all their backgrounds. But I would say probably it's about a 50-50, probably with the ones that I know.
Fair enough.
When I began, you asked the question of what makes me different, and I'm just trying to think back and help share some things.
So belief was one at the
belief was there because I knew I had I had my back was against the wall, and I had done enough research on the industry to realize it works for other people. I've done my homework to make sure I'm with a legitimate company. Now I just have to put in the work and be trained properly. And my sponsor did happen to be the top income producer in the company, which I felt would help, and it did. And he was very aggressive, and I'm an aggressive kind of person, and so we gelled well. And the things that he told me to do, I didn't question much. I just did it, and I thought that's what everybody else does. But obviously, he knew me pretty well, and I found out later that not that many people enroll as what he was expecting me to every week. But he set me up for that success right out of the gate, and I'm so glad that he did because I didn't know anything different. So within 3 days of joining, I had 22 guests at my home, and my upline coming to do the presentation. Not my direct sponsor; he shuffled it off to somebody else to come do it. But either way, there wasn't anyone that joined that night. But over the next few, over 20, I had 22
and zero.
Not one person enrolled.
And were you discouraged?
No.
No,
because
like, okay, it's gonna be
I knew that there was a certain amount of them that had watched me get involved in the first company, and so they were probably going to do a wait and see thing. But there were a few that I knew I had my eye on that was like, okay, I'm not giving up on you. And within a few days, they had come on board. So I really did enroll 6 people in my first full week of being on board. But again, my sponsor made me feel like that's just the average. So I needed to step it up even more. So I really helped them to go out there and to really paint the picture. We know how, if you want to be aggressive and you want to build it faster, we were building pretty quick. I didn't really...
this was when? What year?
This was in 1995,
okay,
in the fall of 95. And though I'd gone through some training, and I was scared to death to make phone calls, I still would dial for those calls. Now, for me, I had to do them more privately in a room because I would sweat and I would stutter through those calls, but I would make the calls. And a few times, my upline was so aggressive that if he did sneak into the room and hear me on the phone, he would always could tell if I was sitting down or if I was standing up by the tone, without him sticking his head in the door yet, on whether or not he could figure out if I was standing up or if I was sitting down. So he found that for me, I had to be standing up all the time. So he'd come in there, he's like, get that chair, you get the chair out. And eventually, there was one time I was relaxing in the chair and I was on the phone, and he came in and kicked it out from underneath me, and I like fell down like, man, okay, I won't do that again. But he realized that we project our body language. Back then we did a lot of contacting on the phones, and so for that it was really important to smile and project that image. And that was amazing that he did those things for me. And at the time I didn't really understand everything he was doing, but I can't complain because within a short period of time, within about 6 weeks, I was being able to get back on top, bills-wise, financial-wise, checks were coming in. And I, saw a really bright future and was starting to get a little bit more relaxed because this is working. I can relax a little bit. And then all of a sudden, he wasn't as available. So he was kind of off doing some other things at that point. So it put me to a situation of, well, I'm either, if it is to be, it's up to me. And I better step up and start being my own leader, which meant I had to start doing my own presentations, my own three-way phone calls, and my own conference calls. And there was enough people around me in my life that I felt like I was showing them that I could do this, that I surely was not going to let that stop me. Whether he was around or not, I wasn't going to point fingers. So I wasn't very good at the first presentations. In fact, for a long while. I still have some of my long-term leaders today that say the worst presentation they've ever seen anyone give on our company was me. Still to this day, they've never seen anyone give a worse one, but they got started, right? And they're still with us today. And so that was not my forte. I wasn't very good at it, but I kept doing them, and I kept getting better and better. And the first three-way conference calls I did, I knew that my associates' guests were interested before they talked to me. And after, they weren't. So I knew that it was going to take some time to actually get good at those as well. And eventually, I had to learn how to kind of brand myself and not worry so much about what my upline was doing. And I had a very supportive team below me, and we gelled well. And it wasn't easy, but we stuck together. We supported one another. We found our strengths and weaknesses, and we went on to actually break a company record. So, of course, in anything that we do, you don't do it alone.
Sure.
And without those, great key people that did come on board, and I could help work with them, and the little things I could do to help, I tried as much as I can. But a lot of them, maybe some of them were even better, a lot better than me at the business at that time. But I ended up reaching a top leadership position in our company, breaking company records, which was 20 months. 20 months.
And I got to back up for a second.
Yep.
Because you're one of the few top earners that I've heard that had an awesome upline, that had an awesome sponsor. Most of the top earners didn't.
Yeah.
And then they had to do it on their own.
Yep.
What advice do you have for someone? Because I can hear him thinking, right?
Yeah.
The whole audience is
That's
going,
exactly
well,
what
he had a great upline. I wanted
Yeah.
somebody to kick a chair out from under me, and I wanted somebody to push me and tell me to stand up and do the calls.
Yeah.
And nobody's telling me to do anything. So how can I succeed? Of course he's successful because he had that and I don't.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for somebody that doesn't have an awesome sponsor, which is most of the people? I mean, sometimes you have a sponsor that's brand new or joins and quits or joins and disappears. Yeah. And now that becomes your excuse not to be successful. What advice do you have?
I think that there's so many great resources and tools and everything around today, way more than back then when we got started. And, I think that I would rather see associates stay put. Don't try to go change to another line or whatever. Stick where you're at because you can do this. And you've got so many great resources around you now today that honestly, even if you have a top person as your sponsor, you're not going to be with, like, they're busy. They got a lot of stuff going on.
How much time did he really invest in you?
Not a lot of time. They were short calls.
Yeah.
And never did he, even work maybe even a half a day with me at any given time.
He didn't move in with you or anything.
No.
He was just pushing and coaching, and
it may have only been a 5-minute phone call a day sometimes. Yeah. So there wasn't anything that was like, okay, I'm going to hold your hand through all this,
Right.
And I'll tell you that some of the things that he actually did to me, I think that a lot of people out there probably wouldn't have stuck around.
Because he was hardcore.
He was hardcore. And, I'm not that hardcore. I've learned, and I've sometimes tried some of that, and that hasn't worked for me long term. And I'm not that kind of a person anyways. Yes, I'm aggressive, but I can't expect people to be that aggressive. Right. And I think that some of the biggest success stories that we've had throughout our organization were the direct sponsors not right there local. They're long distance. It's a relationship. It's someone to be accountable to a little bit. And you can even find people that are cross line or sideline, so to speak, that can still act as that person you really have an accountability to.
Right.
In fact, as we all know how our industry works, eventually they're not all pay legs for you anyway. And so at the end of the day, almost anybody, whether they're in your organization or in somebody else's, we're still part of the same family. It's not very long before people end up being maybe necessarily in a pay line if you're working hard. Right.
So I got to back up, and again, from the story, here's the lessons that I'm hearing from it.
Okay.
1 was belief. 2 was you were coachable. 3, you were willing to look bad while you were learning. You were willing to embarrass yourself if necessary.
Yes.
In order to learn. I heard the quote once that it's hard to get better and look good at the same time. Some people they don't want to ever embarrass themselves. Sometimes you're going to be a little bit embarrassed, right? But like you said, the worst presentation still worked. You got some people, and then you got a little better, a little better, a little better, a little better.
I'm really good at them today.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But back then, no, it took a while.
How long did it take before? When did you earn 6 figures? How long did it take?
4 months.
4 months to get to $8,000 a month.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
That's a fast track. Yeah. How long did it take before you got to say $20,000 a month?
I got there at 6.5 months.
6.5 months, burning hard.
Yeah.
You were working hard.
Yeah.
All right. How long did it take to get to $40,000 a month?
Let's see. So that would have been probably about my 3rd year.
About a 3rd year before you got to about $500,000 a year. Wow, still a young man.
Yeah.
Right. And then what was the first time you earned $1 million in a year?
So I was hovering like around 850 for quite a while, and wanted to push over that $1 million mark. I don't know if it was a mindset for me or what, but when I finally put the hammer down to make it happen, I actually went from like 850 to 1.6 in 1 year.
Wow!
And that happened in 2009.
2009. So you were involved for quite a while before you punched it through.
I was living pretty comfortable, so I'd work hard and I'd coast and enjoy the life, because that was the reason I thought I got into the business, and I do like to play hard, So I love family time, I love hiking, love the outdoors, love boating, love traveling, and it's great. It's a wonderful life, actually. I live it to its fullest.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I will always come back around and build new success stories because I love it. And so it's only a matter of time before I come back around and I'm ready to go gang ho and build some more again.
You said something a couple times now.
Yeah.
You said, I thought my goal was the money.
Yeah.
What's the goal now?
Do you know what? Making a difference, obviously. And I think that for people that, this happens with time. You'll never figure this out in the first few years. But year after year after year, you find that there's always enough money. It's not about that anymore. In fact, I don't even see my money. Most of the time I have other people manage it all. But, when you have the opportunity to start giving back and doing things that can make such a difference in people's lives. And, you talked about earlier today on stage what it's like when you can give like a new car to someone that needs it in your family as a shock with a red ribbon. I'm telling you, there's nothing that feels better when you can do that. And I've done that, and I've, several times. And I've had, you build up and get a Hummer on stage, and I'm like, this is awesome. And then all of a sudden, let's give this out right now, And it's like I was more excited about giving that Hummer out to the audience, to whoever could spin the dice and whoever it could go to, then ever I would have the enjoyment out of that car. Like I knew someone else in that audience needed that car way worse than I did.
Right.
And I think that there was also times in my life that I had a pretty difficult upbringing with my mom that had some serious health issues.
Talk about that.
So Mom had a lot of health issues at a young age, and in mostly in my early teenage years, and I'm the oldest of 4, and she tried to take her life a couple of times, only because of a lot of the pain and agony and medical issues that she was undergoing. So trying to be the big brother of the 4, and kind of handling some of those situations when Dad was hard at work, and trying to provide for the family wasn't easy, but it made me step up and probably a lot of character where I am today. But I also knew that eventually when Dad moved on, which eventually he would need to, there was not going to be anyone left to kind of take care of Mom in bad situations. And so, I think that at that time it was always, it's not like I am going to go in there and take care of everything for her, but always kind of watching from the outside, doing everything I could. And there became the day that, thank heavens that I had built a business that in some unforeseen ways in life, you really don't know what can come at you. And to be able to now take care of so many things for her at that time. And, she still passed away at 49. But,
Wow.
The last many years hopefully was a more uplifted years for her, and doing things that I could do to help make things easier. And I've been able to do that with a few people in my life that are no longer here today, on this planet anyway. But hopefully they're smiling above, knowing that there was definitely some resources and help and support and things that honestly, if I would have stayed in the other professions that I was doing before, I would have never been able to do it, not only from a financial standpoint or a freedom standpoint, to be able to drop and be able to be with them and be able to do things that, most people just can't walk away from their job for 6 months or a year, or, take care of someone. And that's the things that, in life we don't plan on, and so sometimes I was building for things that I really didn't know for sure, but it was more about stability for the future. And I still have cool things, and I still rewarded myself, but at the same time, you really do need to step it up and plan, for you don't really know what could happen. And so what an amazing industry to be able to go out there and build and try to reach your full potential, and know that people that you love in your life and you care about, and your children and their future and schooling and all these things. And you never know if one could have a major medical issue that could end up costing so much. And a lot of people out there just aren't prepared for that today. And I think that, also you find out that when you can make a difference in other people's lives, not only financially, but when you have the ability to take someone in a situation in their life where they're struggling and they have dreams and they need to go from one place to another, and that you now develop the skills and the mindset to take them to that place, to not only help them, but coach them, and not push them, but to guide them and mentor them. And that feeling when they achieve that and they go through those milestones, and you've been there, where you get the phone calls and they're in tears. And it's like, I just don't even know where my life would be today if this wouldn't have happened. And thank you for, we owe you. I don't know how many people at this event this weekend have come up and said, that have been closely connected to me, that I've helped them through the business. And there's like, I don't know what would have happened. Thank you, for helping me through this process and introducing me or whatnot. But I mean, the interesting is that I remember the day that I reached out to my upline. It was the first week that I'd made $4,000 for a week. That's what it finally took. And I don't think that I got 2 words out of my mouth, but I know I cried for at least 30 minutes. And he just sat on the phone and listened to me weep. And it was a weep of gratitude, of happiness, of I owe you and thank you for being there as much as you were there for me. And I wouldn't have been able to live this life if it wasn't for you introducing and being persistent with me in the beginning to look at this. And he just sat and listened and let me work that out of my system. And I'll never forget that for the rest of my life. And I needed that, and that was the moment that occurred. And I'm sure for other people it occurs at different moments. Sometimes I have some people that call me in tears, and they've it might be just a health thing that now has been helped them much with, or improving their lifestyle, making better lifestyle choices. And other times it's making that first $1,000 check for a week,
just
and
fun,
all
just
of a
having
sudden
an emotional breakthrough.
They're having some breakthroughs, men and women. So
I'm a huge fan of defining moments. There's these times in your career, these times in your life where you can go one way or another. Something, it's either fight or flight. Sometimes you rise up from it. Sometimes you shrink down, depending on your response to it. Sometimes it's dark moments. Sometimes it's challenging moments. Whatever. As I'm saying that, can you think of any defining moments that have happened in your career?
Yeah. So for me, and it's no secret because a lot of people that know me have seen me grow a lot from where I began. And we still have video and pictures, and it's always fun to bring up at events and actually show people not only what I sounded like, but what I looked like. And it really is hilarious. I want to see it. I'll get it to you. It's hilarious. You wouldn't even think that I'm the same person. Everyone never believes me when I show them at first. I'm like, it really was me. But I even laugh at it too. But it goes to show that my biggest fear in being successful in this business, which I didn't think I would have a challenge with it until it came time that I had to get in front of a group of people. Not just a one-on-one presentation or a two-on-one, but now when I had to get in front of 20 or 30, or heaven forbid, 100, I could not communicate any longer. I stuttered through them. I was white as a ghost. Someone would have to come back up and take over. And even some of my downline associates were better at being able to take over in those situations than I was. And I knew I definitely had a serious obstacle that I needed to overcome. And though I continued to do more of them, I thought that I'd be ready for the big leagues for our first convention that they let me speak. And I remember for 3 or 4 days being in the car and I got people in team at my house and I'm actually in the parking lot down the street and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to memorize my talk from start to end, and I was so worried about it and I'm like, what's wrong with me? And sure enough, I get out there on stage and I was so nervous. I blanked out, don't remember anything I said. They eventually have to put music on to get me off the stage. And that was my moment of complete failure in front of everybody. Yes, I was making a 6-figure income, but it was that moment of like, you know what? Can I or can I not get through this? Because I just made the biggest fool of myself and should have never been on stage, no matter how much money I'm earning, because I've never seen anybody go do what I just did. Like, I honestly just blanked out over it because it was so bad. And walking through the hallway alone from the back of that convention center up to the front was the longest walk of my life. Because in that defining moment, I knew by the time I hit the end of that hall, I was going to see team members and I was going to have to make a decision whether I'm going to grow through that experience and I can do this and I will fight and I will make the company get back up, me on the stage again. I don't care. I will do it and I'll do whatever it takes. And by the time I reached the end of that hallway, I didn't go talk to my associates. I went right up to the VP of sales and I said, you know what? That'll never happen again. Will you please schedule me for the next event right now? Can I count on you trusting me? I will get better. And he said, yeah. Wow. And the next event, a little bit easier. Not 3 days in the car, but maybe 1. And I got better. I still wasn't comfortable, but everybody could tell I really struggled at it. I started at this point to be good at a lot of other areas in the business, but I really struggled with public speaking. And I found that I just needed to keep getting up and doing it again. And I hated it. To be honest with you, Eric, I really hated it. Now, today when I see you speak, I know you love it. I was so excited to see that. And you know what? If you see me speak, and I can speak to sold-out audiences now, and honestly, I love it. There's no better, buzz, adrenaline, natural endorphins, and just knowing that you're making a difference and you're making an impact and people are going to remember what you say. There's nothing that replaces that. And as I spoke on stage a little bit earlier, as I mentioned, one of the best talks I've ever given. Like, I've been high on that stuff for hours. Like, there's nothing that replaces that. And here was a point in my life, 17 years ago, that if I would have walked to the end of that hall and said, you know what, I'm out. Like, I'm good with my hands. I'm good at building teams and crews in construction and commercial carpet installation. I can make a 6-figure income doing that. I'm going to go do that because I will not have a walk of shame like this again in front of thousands of people that I feel like I can't even go out there and show my face right now. But thank heaven something inside of me, and it wasn't anybody else. I had to make that decision myself. And like you say, at everybody's point of a breakthrough in our industry, you got to have that talk with yourself, and you're going to have to figure it out, and no one can help you with it.
I love that. Good for you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did that.
Yeah.
The world is better because you did.
Thank you. And everyone knows now, and we've got GMs that are always like, come speak over here,
Sure.
5-star accommodations and 2 business class tickets, and I've done that, and we've all done that, and it's
Sure.
like, you want to go see places around the world, it's like, but at the same time, it's like, you can almost get addicted to it. That's all you want to do is just go out and be in front of people and be a rock star and be able to find things that you can help inspire people. And so there's been some times in my career that I've had to learn to come back away and go, I'm going back to the trenches.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to lose touch with what it's like to personally enroll people and take them from the starting point and that glimmer in their eye and their goals. And I've developed tremendous leaders in the company, more than I can even count now, but not because I've taken them when they're already a leader to a greater leader. I am going back and setting the example and going back after brand new people coming on board and treating them the same way I would have anybody else to get them to a leader, and staying fresh, staying in the trenches, building, growing, and then developing them to a point. And there is a satisfaction in that that is really tough to compare with anything else out there when you know you can do that. And
well, this is great. The stories are great. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to look into the camera.
Yep.
And this audience really wants to be network marketing professionals. They want what you have. They want to be able to earn like you've earned and do all that stuff. They might be brand new. They may be struggling. They might be going through a dark time, whatever it is. Yeah. What advice do you have for them in order to be able to do this big, to go big? Give them some advice.
Yeah, so here's what I would say. In order to go big, you have to recognize that you're going to have barriers and obstacles, and yours are probably going to be different than mine. Because I know some people that come on board and they're fine being in front of the room, and they're fine reaching out and talking to people. Maybe their issues are work ethic, maybe their credibility quite isn't there, or maybe their belief level is still a little low in our industry. But whatever challenge or obstacle that you're seeing and you're looking at it as like a barrier, my advice to you is to look around that, because every great person in our industry had barriers. No matter how cool they sound on stage, and no matter how big their checks are, don't be fooled. Every single one of them had tremendous obstacles and barriers to work through and overcome. And you know what makes us great in life, in this industry or not, is identifying that it's okay if you have that obstacle and looking beyond it. And finding a way to climb up over it, reach around it, dig underneath it, because no one's going to hold your hand to do it. You've got to be the one to do that. Don't say, well, maybe Jeremy had the number one or a top earner in the company, support him or whatever. It's not as cool as you think it is, but you can't use that as your excuse. There really are no excuses. The only one that can really give you excuses is yourself. And so if you will just understand that I've seen people from all walks of life. That is the greatest thing about our industry, is that traditional barriers like your age, your educational background, your work experience, or what your financial condition is, all those traditional barriers that would hold you back in other types of businesses, they do not exist in our world. Now, you might think they do because someone programmed you to think that. I'm telling you here right now, I've been doing this for a long, long time. I have a worldwide organization that's thriving, and they are from all walks of life. Sometimes people go, wow, how did they do that? Easily. They identified their barriers, they reached around them, climbed over them, learned how to believe in themselves, and start taking action every day, and other people are going to watch you, and they'll learn to do the same thing.
Well, that's great advice. Sir, you're an inspiration to the profession.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing some ideas. We'll have to do it again sometime soon.
Great.
But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you got some value from this. I know I did. That's our show for today. That's our interview for today. Our wish for you is that you decide to become a network marketing professional, that you decide to go pro, that you reach around those barriers. Because it is a stone cold fact. that we do have a better way.
Absolutely.
Now let's go tell the world. Everybody have a great day.